we're going to look at Griffin Ligare. So Griffin, he has played in a lot of games. He has played in the FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers, the actual FIBA Afrobasket. He's played in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, and then last year he played in the FIBA African 2023. So he's one of the OG players in the squad. They call him Kenya 1, but I don't think that he deserves that type of distinction. He's a player that he's actually old. He is up there in age, and he's not getting any younger. And right now he's playing for the Nairobi City Thunder. But if I look at his stats, especially when it comes to Kenya Morans basketball, there's so many games that I have seen him play, and he's not that person that you can consistently rely on down the stretch. And in this video, I attempt to look at his stats and just give an objective view on what we are going to expect 2 days from now. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So you can see his statistics right here. Griffin Ligare, he played 4 minutes in the FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers. So he played a couple of games, and we're gonna look at that. So in the first 2 games, Angola versus Kenya Morans versus Senegal, and Kenya Morans versus Angola, he didn't play because of DNP, because of the coach at the time, Coach Cliff. Then he played against Mozambique. So he played 24 minutes right off the gate. He had this performance: 7 points, 3 of 8 shooting, 2 of 5 from 2-point field goals. Then you could see 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 personal foul, 1 turnover, like that, a plus 27. So this is the game that the Kenya Morans won against Mozambique. So coming out back-to-back losses, the Kenya Morans won this game against Mozambique. Then going into that game against Senegal, which stomped us back to reality. And this time, the person at the helm of coaching was Coach Liz Mills. So Coach Liz Mills coached the team for these 3 remaining games of the FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers, and under her watch, Griffin Ligare, when he was given his opportunity, he played 20 minutes, had 3 points, 1 of 3, and he had a minus 17. So this is actually the worst game that he had during that stretch. Then even look at the game against Angola, the game that the Kenyan Morans made history. He did virtually nothing, especially when it comes to scoring, but you can see he only played 5 minutes, and he was 2 of 4 from the line. And one thing that people must understand is this is a guy that is a liability on the defensive side of the basketball, and he had a plus minus for -3 in that game. So in the previous game, he had a minus 17. He played a lot of minutes, but because of his inability to play good defense, he cost the team a lot of points. Then, and in every single mismatch. Then in the game against Mozambique, you can see he played 15 minutes. This is the game that Talongwa didn't play, and the Kenyan Morans got beat by north of like 29 points, and they just quit in the first quarter. So there was not much expectation in this game, but you could see what he did: 2 of 7 shooting, and to just close out the qualifiers, this was his performance, and he had the most poor performance I've seen, especially for a player in his position, and a player that has been given a lot of credit, especially when it came to the silver medal in the 2019 AfroCan. So from his stats, you could see this is a guy that is a liability and cannot be trusted with heavy minutes to play basketball. But that was not the case, because when this guy played in the actual Afrobasket, you can see what he did. 11.5 minutes in 4 games. He played every single game, didn't miss any game. He shot 26% from the field. He had 0.8 assists, especially for a player who is supposed to play, make, and facilitate. This is not acceptable. Even going back to his stats, this is a player that is supposed to be filling out the stat sheet, not only scoring wise, but also in the assists and facilitating and playmaking. So you could see when a team plays good defense on him, he's not able to do that, and they bother him. Especially Senegal did a very good job in guarding him, and he was forced with 3 turnovers like that. So he's not a facilitator at any stretch. He's a guy that he thinks that he's a score fast point guard, but his position should make him a floor general to be able to assist the basketball. But you could see that is not in his vocabulary, because my God, this is somebody that you can't rely on to facilitate games for you. Check out the assists. He had 0 assists in the Cote d'Ivoire game. Only 1 assist. He only recorded in a total of 4 games, only 3 assists. Somebody that's supposed to be the one who is supposed to assist in orchestrating the offense and help Tyler, especially at the time that he was playing. So this time he played 4 games. The game against Cote d'Ivoire, he lost it. He only played 4 minutes, did virtually nothing, and I can say his productivity was down. It was not even needed in this game. Then the next game against Nigeria, he just continued with that performance. This game, the previous game and this game, he recorded 0 points, nothing. Did virtually nothing, plus minus or minus 1. In the game against Mali, where both the Kenyan Morans and Mali were looking for their first wins, Griffin, he scored 12 points, but you can see the type of defense that Mali had. They didn't play aggressive basketball the way they experienced in the first 2 games, so they were able to get away with a lot of mistakes. So one thing I've seen, when a team is not good and a team is below average, that's when the Kenya Morans shine, and that's where he gets, like, he's able to drop these points in this type of shooting space. They're not the best, but at the time you can even see he didn't even draw any fouls to get to the line, and that's where he was able to grab 8 boards. He's not grabbing 8 boards against Nigeria or Cote d'Ivoire. He couldn't do that. He couldn't do that at all. And the team just thrives against beating teams that can't, play defense. And the game against South Sudan, he was virtually nowhere to be seen. He only played 90 minutes, 3 points, 1 of 5, and South Sudan just knocked us out of oblivion. And we are nowhere to be seen at all. But you can see, on average, this is not a guy that you can rely on down the stretch. He can't facilitate the offense, and he's somebody that is a liability, completely a liability. I won't stop saying this, because this is somebody that you might think that even the experience that he has will assist him, but if you look at the actual game and you look at the actual stat sheet, you'll come and see that this is somebody that you cannot rely on at all, completely. Then in the FIBA World Cup. In the FIBA World Cup, he played a couple of games in there. He played 5 games. And the reason as to why he played 5 games, and you can see there's nobody who plays 6 games, is because the Kenya Morans are given a walkover in that Congo DR game in the second window in July of 2022 because of off-court issues, because of the fact that the Kenya Morans and the Kenya Basketball Federation were very incompetent, and they couldn't even secure tickets for the team in preparations to that tournament. So that's the reason as to why he and the other players had a maximum of 5 games. And if you look at this performance that he dropped, the reason as to why his minutes were inflated like that is because there were not many people on the team. There were only 8 people who were gonna play. So that's the reason as to why he played heavy minutes like this. But in the first game against Congo DR in February 2022, he started. You might think that he started off with a good momentum. These are the numbers that we used to see him, play with. He's not a good facilitator. That's why he got 2 points, 57% shooting from the field. Then he had 3 personal fouls, 3 steals. Things were actually kind of looking good in this first game, but in the second game against Egypt, that's when he played the most minutes. But looking at his productivity, it was just pathetic and abysmal. So it was 1 of 3 shooting from the field, 3 of 3 from the line. He shot more from the line than even from the field because they were getting guarded heavily. And this is the game that he had the more negative plus minus for minus 40. So I just want you to notice this column here, because this will tell you the efficiency that the player has. Even when you look back at the games that he was playing, let's say, for example, in this World Cup, you can see the reason as to why this number is not too high is because he was not making any mistakes and he was not taking any risks. And that's the reason as to why it looks like this. But this one, he was attempting and he was not efficient at it. And that's the reason as to why he was failing. And if you look at even the Senegalese game where we got beat by 45 points, well, same story as the previous one. Then in the Egypt game, that's where We had those off-court issues, and even looking back at this game, you could just see everything that happened off the court affected on-court performance, and it was just an embarrassing state of affairs when it came to Kenyan basketball. 2022, I can say, it was just a dark year for the Kenyan Morans and Kenyan basketball, because all these games happened in the same year, and it was just too embarrassing. It was so embarrassing to see the national team fall and flop like this. So it was not a good look at all. Then in the Senegalese game, you could see what happened. So this is not a player that you might think that will have the same productivity even with those issues, but you might think that a player has been able to like figure it out and bounce back. But no, that's not Griffin, because if you look at the AfroBasket, not even the AfroBasket qualifiers, in the FIBA World Cup, you just see a pattern. This is a guy that can't play. This is a guy that can't play at that level. And in the FIBA World Cup just told us everything that we needed to know, because it's the similar performance he had is the one that we just saw again and again. So I can say he tried to change up a bit, but in the games that mattered, there's a reason as to why we lost those games. He played heavy minutes. We had better options like Eugene, Ken Washira, but Coach Cliff at the time, he decided to go with Bosire and Griffin, players who play the similar position and similar playing styles, played them at the 1 and 2, flopped hard. And this game against Morocco, that's the game that we got eliminated. I'm not going to pay much attention to these two games here, especially the outcome was actually quite irrelevant. But this game against Tunisia is the first team that you're going to match up against. But even if you look at this game, Tunisia, they put in their bench players. So the A team for Tunisia is going to show up this Friday, and we'll have to be ready for them. But I don't think Griffin is ready for them at all, because this does just tell us everything we need to know. This is not a player that you can rely on down the stretch. This guy is the epitome of inefficient. This is a player that should not even be given any call-up to the national team. This is a player that has shown time and time again that he cannot rise up to the occasion. This is a player that is old. He has shown that he can't play defense. He's a one-trick pony. If you play hard defense on him, he throws him off with his game. And the reason as to why he gets called up to the national team is yet to be established. I know the cartels in KBF will just pick him regardless. But if you look at what he does and what he brings, is abysmal. These are not numbers that can make anybody even sign him, even at the pro level, especially given the fact that he's old and this is how he plays. So you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. You can't teach an old dog anything. And this is just going to be we're going to see a similar performance from all these players that we have seen here. There's no difference at all. And in the whatever he has done in the FIBA AfroBasket qualifiers, AfroBasket, FIBA World Cup, and FIBA AfroCan in recent times, when you look at that, when you look at all that data, it helps us predict what this guy is going to do. So this is the peak that this guy has produced. And giving this guy more minutes and giving this guy more opportunities, and foregoing like a young talent that can be able to put, you can put a young talent there and is able to like grow with that, and we allow the young talented athlete to make mistakes, will really help us in the long run. But recycling dead wood like a guy like Griffin is not going to be helpful for the team at all. So that's all I got for you guys.